Hey, everybody. Thanks again. I'm early if you're in California, and some of you I know all around the world right now in different countries. So it's great to see you. It is 7 a.m. here. Can you make sure you're muted, please? The settings are set to mute all. And yet I don't put the settings on so that you can't unmute yourselves. I'm all about people. I'm all about community. I could do this as a webinar and teach you something. It's just not who I am. I want to interact and see you guys. So I'd rather handle the disruption of someone hitting unmute by mistake than turning you all off so we can't see one another. And if you're in your PJs right now because it's super early or super late and you want to keep your camera off, that's great. And if you've got little kids at home, I totally understand. I heard just now somebody's baby came on. I saw a bunch of you laughing. So it's what life is like for all of us. Do you guys remember, it was a year or so back, there was a British, it was on the BBC, someone was being interviewed and his kids came into the background and he's trying to push them out and so they can't be seen, and his wife comes in on her hands and knees hoping she can't be seen. Look, we're all working from home right now. So it's okay if you've got your kids with you. My kids, what was it, 7 a.m.? Ellington usually bursts in around about this time and asks if he can borrow my phone and listen to an audiobook. So that might happen as well. And I'd rather be real than try and pretend that I'm not. So it's great to see you. I started this group about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Who's lost track of time completely? Who has no idea what day it is, what week it is? It's a really strange moment in time. Because so much is happening so fast, the world has shifted so quickly that it's hard to really compute. And so I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago that I thought, what's the way I can support the bigger community of coaches beyond just my own clients? And I had this idea of creating a Facebook group. I was a little nervous because I ran a Facebook group for 5 years that I was in almost every day, curating and interacting with people and being of service. And it completely drained me of energy. If any of you have run a Facebook group, it's really easy to run one and you can fill them really quickly. People love joining Facebook groups. And you have to ask yourself, are these really my people? Am I spending time serving the people who I'm meant to be spending time with? And am I able to bring the right value to them? And are they actually bringing value back to me and energy back to me, or are they just taking my energy? So I was a little nervous when I created this group, but I wanted to be of service at that moment in time, 3 or 4 weeks back. And so we created this group. And I've been doing my best to share some of my real-time thinking. Actually, in some ways, some of you get my thoughts in this group before it even goes out to my wider community on my newsletter. How many of you, give me a show of hands right now. I'm going to skim through. How many of you had no idea who I was a month or so back? I want to get a sense of who's really new to the world. Hi, Griff. Nice to see you. Hi, Pilly. Nice to see you. Okay, great. So it gives me a clue too that a lot of you knew me already, which is something that's important to notice when you're thinking about building community. Whilst this group on Facebook has grown quite quickly, we're at 2,000 people already and it keeps growing every day. A lot of you were people who I'd served in some way before. I created value for you in some way before. I'm going to go through your questions in a minute. And I notice that lots of your questions, because I asked the question of you, what do you want to create? And I notice that lots of your questions today are about how quickly can I create? And I've been creating for years and years and years, which is why when I open up a Facebook group like this and it looks like it grows quickly, it's actually all the years of service and value I've been creating before now that have helped to make this look like it grows really fast. So I told you this would be real. What I'm noticing is, oh, damn, I left my glass of water in the room as I came in here. And I want to get it so I can actually be present and not trying to pretend that I don't need a glass of water. What I'd like you to do while I just go and grab it is, will you tell me in the chat box? So I love that you've been telling me where you are in the world. That's great. What's a feeling you'd like to have at the end of this conversation? And then if you do that one, what would make this call, whether or not I interact with you directly, an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10? What's a feeling you'd like to leave with? And what would make this call an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10? And I'm going to grab my glass of water. All right, thanks for your patience with me. So let me just share with you what I did. I was going to do this anyway, but it was perfect timing to give me my chance to get my water. We live most of our lives in the past or in the future. We live in the past because we're held back by the limiting beliefs that were created at an early age, the thoughts that still control us. Or we live in the future, our dreams, our visions, our hopes, our desires, fingers crossed. What can I create out there? If you're a therapist, you spend a lot more time working with your clients and resolving issues from the past. If you're a coach, you spend a lot more time working with your clients on what they want to create in the future. And some coaches do deep therapeutic work, and some therapists take their clients out into creating a future. But the truth is, the past and the future don't exist. All you ever have is this present moment. So when I'm working with a client, in the way I just did with all of you, asking you, how would you like to feel at the end of this call? I took you into a future that doesn't exist. When I asked you, what would make this an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10? What would make this conversation amazing, even if I don't speak to you personally? You had to go into the future and think, what would I like to feel in an hour's time? What would make this call amazing for me? And that future doesn't exist. You had to feel it and experience it in this moment. That's all we're ever doing as powerful coaches, taking our clients into a vision of a future that they'd love to create, and then bringing that future back into this present moment so that this place is the place they come from. If you want to feel clarity, feel inspired, well, what would inspiration look like right now? Here's the trick about the word inspiration. It comes from the Latin inspire, which means to breathe. We think inspiration lives out there. What will he say that will inspire me? What book can I read that will be inspirational? Where's the inspirational video, audio that I can listen to today? Inspiration comes from the inside out. It's literally built into the meaning of the word. Stop looking out there and come from in here. What could I do today that if it was accomplished by the end of the day, I'd feel inspired? What's one tiny thing that I could do tomorrow that if I did that tiny thing, by the time it was complete, I'd be full of inspiration, even if I didn't do one other thing for the entire day? Inspiration comes from the inside out. Wow, we've got 140 of you on today. That's beautiful. All right, let's play. I've got lots of different questions from you in front of me right now. Some of you I might bring on live to play with. I asked the question, what would you love to create? It's my favorite coaching question. It's so simple, but it gets people out of their heads and gets them into a future that doesn't exist. And we bring it back here and look at it as a place to come from. What would you like to create? So let's have a look. Where shall I begin? Lauren says, I want to create the best, most magical, playful, and creative business school for coaches so that it earns me $8,000 of passive income per month. One of my friends who has an online business once said to me, creating passive income is some of the hardest work I've ever had to do. There's this myth that passive income is passive. It's not passive. It does bring money in while you sleep. And that's a great way to have a look at building a business. But if you want to bring money in while you sleep, times have changed a little bit. I was going to say, rent out a room in your house, rent out another property, buy some property that you can rent. Let's take this moment in time aside. That's a great way to have passive income. And this story that I can have some kind of business that brings $8,000 of passive income a month. Well, what are you going to do for that? What value are you going to create for people? How are you going to create 10 times that value? How could you create $80,000 worth of value for a community that they'd be willing to pay each $8,000 per month? The answer to that question is stop looking at what comes in and let's start looking at what comes out. What value can you create that is so extraordinary that people don't hesitate to send you money? Because it's simply an exchange of value. In fact, you're providing so much more value than they could ever get by paying you that it's a no-brainer that they'd send money to you. Sebastian says, I want to create a massive movement for people to love and accept themselves as well as each other. An epidemic of loneliness is such an oxymoron, and there's a lot of needless pain. Very true. A lot of people are talking about even months and years ago, people are talking about how impactful loneliness is on us as a society. Well, now more than ever before. How many of you live alone right now? How many of you live alone and are feeling really craving being around people? How many of you live with people and are feeling lonely? I'm an introvert, which means that it doesn't mean I'm shy, but it means that I get drained if I'm around people too much. So I find ways to only be around people certain moments of my week or my year. And I'm craving being around people right now. I'm feeling lonely. And that's unusual for an introvert to say. So it's great, Sebastian, great mission. But I want to create a massive movement. Why not start one person at a time? Find one person who's lonely and find out what they need and see how you can support them. And then find the next and find the next. So in 2006, I was helping a group of guys who ran a training for men around relationships. And there were about a dozen of us who were coaches helping about 7 or 8 men at a workshop. We had a really high value ratio of coaches to clients, a 3-day workshop. And some of us who were the coaches would work with the support team outside of the room instead of the people in the room. And we went out to circle up outside in the alleyway outside the building. And I was leading this group and we're doing a check-in, and I shared with the group of the support staff, and I was kind of pissed off. I wanted to be one of the coaches in the room. And one of the support staff in the circle looked at me and said something that changed my life. He said, Rich, excuse my French, but he said, fuck you. He said, we're here with you right now. And all you want is to be with those guys there so you can be learning better coaching skills. You can coach us right now. And it changed my life. If you want to help people who are lonely, Sebastian, start with the person in front of you, and then the next, and then the next. And we talk about wanting to build a massive movement, but any massive movement was started one person at a time, and then the next, and then the next. 15 years ago, I didn't have an email list, a community. I was known by no one. I used to be a high school teacher, but I went out and served people one person at a time, and that grew over time. Excuse my passion about this one, but I feel really strongly. I watch people a lot talk about, I want to build a massive movement. This is not about you, Sebastian. And they miss something that happens. No massive movement was ever created unless it was one person at a time. Andy says, oh, by the way, help me out, guys. Share, as I'm talking, share some of the insights that you get, or a way that you're going to apply anything that happens, because then you get to interact, you get to capture your insights, and I get to interact with you a little bit. When I've got 150 people on a call like this, I can't interact quite so much with you, but you can let me know what's going on, and that's really great for me to be able to see where you are in your insights and your thoughts. That's great. Thank you. I'm doing a quick skim of what you've had to say. Oh, great. And that's nice. Diana's just shared. She's in her 5th year of doing this and starting to see the results I'm talking about. It builds over time, and it feels incremental to start with, and then it grows exponentially. Andy said to me in the Facebook group, he wrote, I want to create a transformational coaching experience within a small 12-unit resort surrounded by jungle and overlooking the ocean on the southern west coast of Costa Rica. That's great and beautiful, and I love that. I'd love to be at a resort like that, working with someone like you, Andy. And I'd ask you 2 questions right now. Number 1, what can you offer at this moment in time? Let's be honest, no one's jumping on a plane very soon to travel. What can you create that captures that experience? And that leads to my second experience. As coaches, we lead too often with our methodology, the experience you'll have. You'll be in a beautiful resort in Costa Rica. You'll experience ontological coaching. And again, excuse my language, but nobody gives a shit. They've never heard of ontological coaching. They don't know the benefit of spending time in a resort in Costa Rica with a coach. Otherwise, they'd be looking you up. The idea is to find out, what do people need right now? And how can I offer them that? So rather than focusing on this amazing experience, ask yourself, what do people need most right now? And even more particular for you, Andy, what do my people need most right now? And if you don't know, then ask them. Go out to them one at a time and ask them, hey, tell me in this moment, 4 weeks ago, everything got chaotic. We all got a little bit scared. And now we're getting to this moment in time, things feel a bit calmer. And we're all starting to breathe a little and looking a little bit more down the road. Maybe not long-term for some people, but at least short to medium. What would you love to create? What's your biggest dream right now? What's your biggest challenge? What's the biggest risk to you, your family, or your business right now? And when you have the answers to those questions, Andy, create something for them. Hey, well, look, I was thinking about the answers that you gave me, and half a dozen of my other clients have said something similar. How would you like to jump on a call where we'll handle this? And start from there rather than from out there with what you want to create next. And that's where I'd go in this moment, Andy. I see you nodding, man, so thanks. Suzanne says, I want to create a safe haven for senior execs to find their sense of purpose as they transition into their retirement. So Suzanne, I'd ask you to find out, I'd say it's find out in this moment, to find out what are senior executives actually looking for. You're saying it's a sense of purpose, but are you correct? Do you know that? Have you done your research? How many senior executives have you been speaking to find out what they're actually looking to as they transition into retirement? And then I'd ask you, in this moment in time, things could be very different to where they were 5 weeks ago, even if you've done that research. What are the senior executives that you know right now who were 4 weeks ago looking forward to retirement? What are they thinking about right now? What are they dreaming about? What are they worried about? What are they concerned about? And help them with that in this moment. Maybe, I'm making this up, but maybe there are thousands of senior executives who are looking forward to retirement who've now suddenly put the brakes on and thought, no, not yet. I want at least 2 or 3 more years because there's things I need to do to take care of my family first. Maybe it's the reverse. Maybe there are people who hadn't thought about retirement who now can't wait. Okay, I've had a chance to work at home. Well, I could be a consultant. I could be a coach. I could do other things. Do your research and then talk to them about that. Curry asked a great question. She said, I'm beginning to curate conversations with leaders who I previously felt were out of my league. It's not true, but I'm not from corporate, so I have my hesitancy. I want to create a practice with people who want to transform their life and their business. I'm curious as to how I shift what appears to be an evaluation chat with a group of 4 leaders on a call when they want an outline of what will be discussion or an initial chat. I'd rather ask questions. I want to audition them, not to be auditioned. I believe they need to be curious, not merely seeking more information. And Ernest, thank you for jumping in with her, said, sounds like you answered your question in the second from last sentence. And then Curry replied, even as I posted it, I felt like Rich and my current coach would say, I think you know your answer. Thank you, Ernest. Sometimes we need to process out loud. Sometimes we need someone who we can talk to, where we can share our ideas, so those fears and doubts and insecurities drop away the moment we ask the question. I hired a new coach about 4 weeks ago because I realized in this moment in time, I need support. We have a 30-minute call on the calendar about once a week. And every time we get on, we finish in about 15 minutes. And usually the 3 questions I have, almost always the moment I ask the question out loud, I go, oh, okay, I think I know the answer to that one. And we laugh. And sometimes he says something back to me that stimulates my thinking in a way I hadn't done before. How many of you have a coach right now? Give me a hand wave if you have a coach right now. How many of you don't? And of those of you who don't, how many of you are afraid to hire a coach right now because you don't have the money? How could you spare those resources? really got to think about that. If you want clients right now, but you're not walking your own talk, if you're afraid to invest in yourself and your coaching, then no wonder it's hard to talk to others about doing the same. All right, let me see the insights you guys are sharing. What you got so far? So Bob gave a great distinction for, I think it was for Curry, who said she wasn't from corporate. Bob's worked at IBM for 30 years, so he understands corporate. Bob says sometimes the last person someone from corporate is looking for is someone from corporate. Great distinction. We make up all these stories about, everyone else, their coaches have come from a corporate background. There's little old me, and I was a business owner for 12 years. Why would they want me? You need to make your doubts and insecurities into your assets. Why would they want me? Because I'm not like everyone else who's come through corporate, because I think differently, because I'm not afraid to challenge the way that they think, because I don't think the way that they do. Turn your doubts and insecurities into your assets. All right, let me bring somebody on live and talk to them. Rod asked a question. Rod Thurley, are you here live in this moment, Rod? If you are, can you unmute and say hi?
I am here.
Okay, cool. Rod, will you? Oh, okay, let me put on speaker view. That means I realize I can see you. Great. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I always get excited when I see this group of people, and it was fun to see that you asked a question. So I've got your question written in front of me, but tell me in real time, what's going on? How can I help?
I would like to create a small group of business owners. I do group coaching, but I feel like there's such a need for the small business folks, the startups up to maybe $1 or $2 million in annual revenue, the solopreneurs, the single guys out there doing it themselves, guys or gals out there doing it themselves, or maybe 1 or 2 employees. And I think there's such a need for that, and covering the business side, working through the business side with my business background.
Beautiful. I love that. Let me just tell everyone else for a second, Rod. Put yourself on speaker view, guys. That way you got distracted by everyone else right now, and you can just watch me and Rod as we interact. So put yourself on speaker view. So Rod, you have a background working as a business owner for yourself for many, many years. You've faced lots of uncertain times in your business, lots of moments where it looked like everything would go completely wrong and there'd be disaster, and you navigated through it. You guys see the smile on Rod's face. Any business owner, by the way, has those stories. And in the last few years, you've taken the expertise and the successes and the struggles that you went through, and you help business owners do the same.
Yes, exactly.
And you work now mostly with quite high level business owners, am I right?
I do. 5 million and up in annual revenue is primarily where I'm working now. But I just see there's a huge gap in the small business, especially with what we're going through right now. Yeah. with the COVID-19. I mean, so many of these little guys are struggling.
So what I'm hearing, you haven't said this out loud, but what I'm hearing is, my sense is a bit like me running this Facebook group for 2,000 people, many of whom are not my clients and have never been, or maybe never will be. There's a way that you want to give back right now.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Look, this is the way that we can be first responders, right? We can't be in a hospital making a difference there. And we can give some of our money, and many of us are in different ways to donate to charities. But the best way we can leverage our skills is actually helping people using those very same skills.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to either smile or hate me as I say this, or maybe both, but it always comes down to one person at a time. So is there one person right now, who's a small business owner, who actually, if only they could see some of the ways that you see business, their world might change?
After I typed in that question last night, I put on my little bracelet that said, "What would Rich do?" And I don't have one. I actually came up with 3 that I know that could really benefit from that. And when I got in my office this morning, I kind of started writing that down. And so it's the wheels are already starting in motion.
Yeah. So that's the power, you guys, of working with a coach. The tool that Rod is talking about, WWRD. I ask all my clients this, WWRD. Imagine you wear a bracelet that says, "What would Rich do?" So when you have a challenge or a problem or a question, you ask yourself what Rich would do. Here's the funny thing. So often what I would do is not the answer they come up with. It doesn't matter. It gets them out of their head, because where you are, you see the world this way. And they start to think about, oh, well, he would do this. Or think of another inspiring person. What would they do? And it gets you out of your way of thinking. Then everything shifts. And that's it, Rod. One person at a time, one connection at a time. Now, I'd be prepared to bet, Rod, that there are a number of small business owners in this call right now. And so let me ask you, are you an invitation that if someone is a small business owner and that they know there's an expert in business whose expertise has been with really high level business, but wants to make a difference right now, would you be open to them reaching out to you?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. More than happy for that.
Yeah. So you guys, you can go to the chat box and send a private message to Rod, and then you guys can take it offline and he can find a way to connect with you and see if there's a way he can support you.
Happy to.
Right. Beautiful. So what you've modeled too, Rod, is there are communities that you can become part of where by being part of that community, you can connect with other people. You don't have to leverage, you don't have hundreds or even thousands of people right now that you could go to. But the reason I'm talking to you is that I know you and trust you. You're someone I work with. So I wouldn't have made that offer to this community if I didn't trust you. But because I know the difference that you make in Project Kairos, the community that we're in, that you're of service to others, I trust you enough that I would say to all these people now that they might want to get in a conversation with you. I imagine you might find your little inbox blowing up right now on the chat. But I want to put that into the mix. There may have been somebody else who came on. I may have given them the same guidance and then paused and not made the same invitation for them to reach out. But it's because I trust you, because you create so much value for my community when you're in it.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that. I really do. Yeah.
Thanks, Rod. So you guys reach out to Rod and connect with him. And I'd love to share your insights again. What's going on for you right now? What insights you've had? Let me say hi to a couple of people. Hi, Evelyn. It's nice to see you here. Hi, Suzanne. Let's see who else we got. Nice to see you, Sylvia. Oh, it's great to see. There's so many people I don't know so well. Hi, Aaron. Great to see you. Can you guys hit mute? Somebody should hit unmute. I'm doing a quick. Oh, Michael Haggerty. Great to see you, man. Hi, Lisa. Nice to see you. Hello. And we've got a whole bunch of you who are not on camera. That's great. Okay. Love it. Let me have a quick scan of the insights you guys are sharing. All right. So Evelyn just wrote, one person at a time is so annoying for those of us who want it all right now. Yeah, I get it. Who else knows the truth of what this guy Rich keeps saying to us again and again and again? Slow down to speed up. I know the truth of it, and after the but comes, I just want it all right now. Like I know I should slow down to speed up, but can't it just happen a little bit faster than he's saying? Who knows that one? Yeah, I get it. Yeah. How shall I speak to that? Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Evelyn. I can see you writing me messages even though you're not on camera. It builds much faster than you think. Slowing down to speed up. Rod is in one of my programs. We have 20 or so people in that group, and I've watched him giving value, serving people, not holding back from being a support to other people in that group. He didn't have to. How many of you know people, or even yourself, you've been in a group where you've never been of service to them? You've just been in to get value, and that's okay. But Rod hasn't done that. He's coming to give so much value and service to people that when he shared on this call, I said out loud to the 150 people on this, and maybe the thousands who will watch it later, that they should reach out to this man. Slow down in order to speak. It's not slow down in order to lie on your couch eating Cheetos or Doritos, whatever it is. It's slow down to speed up. Counterintuitive, and it really works. Adelena asked a question in the Facebook group. She said, I have a question on coaching billionaire business owners. I've started a network of billionaire business owners. Adelena, are you on this call right now? If you are, can you unmute? All right, she might not be. So here's what I would ask her if she was on this call, because then she goes on to say, Rich, in your experience, what would you create to elevate experiences for billionaire owners? So I don't know. I was going to ask her the question, how many billionaires do you know and how many billionaires do you have in this group? The clue for me is that she's asking me, in my experience, what would I create to elevate experiences for billionaires? Which tells me she probably doesn't know any, and there probably aren't many in that group. But I wanted to ask, because I don't know. I've got clients I have a number of clients who coach billionaires. And I would ask her, well, ask them. Why are you asking me? Ask them. What do they need? What's their biggest challenge? What's the biggest risk to their life or their business right now? And that's always the question you got to come back to. There's no magic answer out there. It's in your clients. Ask them. And I'll tell you what I see from the high net worth individuals that I've coached and the clients I have who coach billionaires is that they're just like the rest of us. They put their pants on one leg at a time. They all have all sorts of doubts and insecurities and fears. Sarah, I see you smiling. I know Sarah coaches very high net worth individuals too. They have all sorts of doubts and insecurities. And we make up this story about who they are and why they're special. No, they're just like us. But what they don't have, what most high net worth individuals don't have, is someone who will look them in the eyes and tell them what they really need to hear, instead of saying yes to everything that they say. And they crave that. They really appreciate it when you're willing to say what needs to be said and when you can see what most people cannot see. And that's what I'd say you need to do if you want to work with billionaires, is find out what their biggest challenges are. And if you don't have any billionaires to work with, don't go there now. Start with the people in front of you. It's great to dream big, and I love people who have impossible goals. But start with the person in front of you. Who can I serve? Let me see what else you guys are sharing in the chat. It's great to see. I get a chance to interact with you. Oh, nice to see Maura's taking a morning run with me. I love that. Sarah, yeah, never put anybody on a pedestal. Maria says, Rich, I absolutely work with one person at a time, and it's created wonders for me so fast. Slow down to speed up, right? Gillian, are you on the call? Gillian Thompson?
Yes, hello.
Oh, hey, Gillian. So you guys put us on speaker view again. Hi, Gillian.
Hi.
Hey. Remind me, where in the world are you right now?
Scotland, northeast of Scotland.
And what's the nearest city that I might know?
Aberdeen.
Okay, great. So welcome. You asked a question and I've got it in front of me, but I wanted to see in real time. And by the way, let me tell everybody else, I do this all the time with my clients. They'll write to me with a question and I get on and I don't jump into answering the question that they asked. Because even if it was an hour ago, let alone a day ago, things can shift. And sometimes just asking a question, that their brain begins to percolate and the world changes. So Gillian, in this moment, how can I support you best?
So myself and my business partner have been developing a community for leaders for the past month or so. We've been working on it, and we've been trying to nail our purpose for it, which we've been struggling with until this week, where we landed on, actually it's a lot wider than just leaders. It's about empowering a generation of heart-centered humans. And starting with leaders, because leaders aren't just leaders in organizations, but they're also parents, brothers, sisters, etc. And then alongside that, this week, another coach asked me, what's your 10-year vision? And what if you could reach it in 6 months? What might that look like? Which I know is very similar to sort of questions I've heard you use on the podcast before.
They're great coaching questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been sitting with me for the last few days, but I've not really been able, I can see what the 10-year vision looks like, but that it feels like quite a leap to then what would it look like in 6 months?
So let me slow you down. What are you feeling on the inside right now as we're talking?
A little bit nervous.
Okay. So great. You got me on speaker view so you can't see anybody else.
Yeah.
Or maybe a couple at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
Great. Let's just imagine it's just you and me. Let everyone else drift away for a moment.
I'm actually going to hide everybody else completely.
Yeah.
There we go. Gone.
Great. So it really is just you and me in this moment.
Yeah.
And we can talk and we have a conversation. And so I really feel your heart in this mission. You really want to make a difference, right? I can feel that.
Yeah.
Let me go, you've been out into the future. Let me go into the past for a moment. What were you doing before coaching, Gillian?
Most of my career was in HR, so senior HR roles in Mars, banking industry, and the oil and gas and utilities industry. But I was an engineer originally.
Huh. So that's really interesting because you don't get many engineers who go into human resources.
No, that's always been my USP.
Nice. So that really interests me because that really captures actually where I'm going with this conversation. The USP, your unique selling point, what makes you unique and different. So what is it about a former engineer that she went into a people-centered field for years and years and got known for that? What were you actually known for?
So there's probably two key things. One was around being very calm in a crisis and helping others through that. The other was around, and a real passion of mine as well, which is supporting leaders that come from a technical or functional background and often get put into that position because they're really good at what they do and not necessarily because they're good people leaders. Yeah,
it's one of the strange issues of leadership throughout corporate history is that you get really good at what you do, so they promote you to be a leader or a manager, and you're no longer using the skills that you used to have, and you're out of depth doing things that you don't know how to do because no one ever taught you how to be with people.
Exactly. Yeah.
The challenge of the vision that you have of working with heart-centered leaders is that it's so broad that it encompasses almost every single person I've ever met, that I don't know who to even refer you to right now. But when I come to the other direction, when I look uncomfortably small, now I'm thinking, oh, well, if I knew a leader in the tech world who either had become really successful because they transcended their technical background to become a people person, but wanted to become really extraordinary as a people person, I tell them they need to have a conversation with you. Or the aspirational ones, those tech leaders who are overwhelmed and confused because they've been told they have to step into this role and they don't know how to deal with people, I tell them to speak to you too. So suddenly it gets really real because people begin to come to mind of who I can actually make a literal referral to you.
And I guess what we've been struggling with, or not struggling with, but it's not a specific industry or a specific type of business or anything like that. It's more that mindset. So people that want to grow, want to connect with other leaders, want to learn and have that safe space that they don't have with their own team or their peers.
Yeah, the difficulty is that you don't want to be trapped. It feels like, oh, Richard's telling me to go back to this tech world I used to be in and help those people do this. And am I right? It's like, no, he's going to trap me. I don't. This is for all leaders. Anyone who has this kind of mindset. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, a bit. I think I say it's not just tech leaders. So I see this challenge across all sorts of different industries. So lawyers that are very legal but can't manage people, or accountants that can't manage people. So it's not just confined to a specific industry, this challenge.
It's not. And what you're pointing to is a powerful distinction I call a psychographic versus a demographic.
Yeah.
And that's important. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just put Rich Litvin's psychographic versus demographic into Google and you'll find my writings about that. So let me tell you a story. One of my clients, I coached him a couple of days ago now, so you can see it on the YouTube channel. If you're coming to the intensive, it was on the accelerator call. but I put a link to it on the blog. His name's Christopher, former Navy SEAL.
Yes, I watched that.
Right. So Christopher is a former Navy SEAL, trained for the Olympics, almost destroyed his body in the process, and spent the last 20 years studying Western and Eastern medicine to help people to release stress from their bodies almost the moment it goes in, and to really put their body back together and to really thrive. And he's one of the few people I meet who has the potential, from everything he's taught and his background and the 20 years of intellectual capital he's created, that he could go really big. I could see him being known by thousands of, or hundreds of thousands of people. But I told him, guess what? Slow down to speed up. I said this: why don't you go back to the community that knows you the best and who trust you the most, the Navy SEALs, and go and work with some of their teams to build a reputation as the man who works with elite military operatives to remove stress from their bodies the moment it goes in, so that no longer people have to work with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's the stress of the trauma is released the moment it happens. That every SEAL team has someone trained in Christopher's intellectual property, so that the moment they're under they come out of a stressful situation, they work on releasing that stress immediately. Get known as that person. It might take a year or two. By word of mouth, you'll be referred to other SEAL teams. These are the people who trust him. And then you can go to another demographic, which are the people who also trust you, high-level sports people. He already works with high-level athletes. And go and become known by working with a number of teams there. So that at that point, when you want to go broader, that people don't just hear this man who wants to help anyone who wants to remove stress from their bodies. It's so broad, it's hard to know, how do I refer him to, this is the man who's known for working with former military, or for working with Navy SEALs and elite athletes. Wow, I want to learn from him. I'm not either of those, but I want to learn from him. That's what I'm saying, is what if, for a short period of time, so you don't get overwhelmed by, oh my God, Richard Sanders forever. You go to the people who know and trust you the most. Let me ask, in this moment, on this call in real time, how many people? Got 150 people on. Will you put in the chat, are you someone who comes from a technical background? Or do you know someone like this? You come from a technical background and you've moved into a people-centered field, whether it's in HR or coaching. And look, they're coming already in the chat. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And if you knew that there was a woman who worked for years in Fortune 50 companies like Mars, worked in the banking industry, worked in oil and gas, that she had this expertise in helping you go from someone who is a real expert in understanding the technical world to understanding a world that's actually far more complex than the technical world, and it's the people world. And would you like to have a conversation with her? Now look at this, what's happening here. Now, I don't know what that means. You'd have to have a conversation with these people. But do you see how quickly it went from this beautiful, inspirational, heart-centered leaders? Now, these are heart-centered leaders, or they wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You don't have to filter that out. But you made it easy for people to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing them all come in.
Yeah. And all sorts of interesting people, a psych nurse and then IT and now coaching, people back to people again. All sorts of interesting people here. Oh, hi, Arvind. Didn't know you were here. An IT specialist turned coach. That's what I'm pointing to. I love that idea of 10 years into the future, what do you want to create? 25 years into the future, what do you want to create? But we can sometimes go so abstract and so high level that we miss the people in front of us. I'm not saying create a box that labels you, Gillian, for the rest of your life. That would constrain you and trap you, and you're terrified of doing that.
Yes.
I'm saying speak to something that you know about. It's not stopping, by the way. And Michael's saying, how about banking to coaching? Here's the thing about going uncomfortably narrow. People don't go, oh, that's not for me. Some of them go, well, it wasn't technical, but it was banking. But I love what Gillian's teaching. I'd be really curious. Going uncomfortably narrow has some people go, would you consider me? It's still going.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm staying with you. I want you to get the power of this.
Mhm.
Are you open? Because you're also someone I know a little bit and someone I trust, that I'm willing to say this next piece, that are you open to, if people want to have a conversation about what does it take to go from a technical world to being a high level people person, working with some of the most successful leaders and corporations on the planet, and those skills to be a heart-centered leader, are you open to them reaching out to you?
Absolutely, yes.
So send a private message. So we don't fill out the feed, but you guys, if anyone wants to, send a private message to Gillian. And now look, Vaishnavi's just said, background in HR, moving into coaching. Again, I went uncomfortably small. I didn't say people in HR going into coaching. I went all the way back to your technical world. And now people who aren't in that demographic we just described are saying, how about me? How about me?
Yeah.
What are you feeling in this moment, Gillian?
Yeah, a bit overwhelmed, and especially by all the messages coming through that I don't have time to read them all just now. But yeah, and I've heard you say exactly this before, and but it takes, sometimes you have to hear something several times for it to really land.
Yeah, that's great. It's one of the things I teach. I say to my clients, and when I'm running an event, you might hear me tell a story that you've heard me tell before. Now, if you're listening for information, you'll say, oh, I've heard him tell that story. I know that distinction. But if you listen for insight, the moment an insight comes, your world shifts. And you might have to hear that story or distinction a dozen times before it suddenly lands. And the moment it does, that little crack opens and the world looks different. So I'm going to pause you in this moment so you can reply to all the private messages you might be getting, and you can give people your email address or something so you can interact with them privately from here and take it from there.
Lovely. Thank you.
I love the smile on your face. It's really precious right now. Thanks, Gillian. Thanks for playing.
Thank you.
All right. So will you guys share with me in the chat what the insight was from that? That was fantastic. It was beautiful to see you can put yourselves back onto, is it gallery view right now so we can see each other? So let me have a quick look at what people are saying. Yeah, Arvind, Gillian really is glowing right now. That's great. Okay, beautiful. All right, thanks for sharing the insights, you guys. Okay, cool. So let's have a look. We've got 10 minutes left. All right. No, so something great just fly past your messages. Rishi said, I was initially afraid of going narrow, but this changes everything. Look, going narrow is really attractive to the right kind of people. And for others, they get really intrigued. Oh, you only work with this group of people? What about me? There was a moment in my life, maybe 10 years back, I was working almost exclusively with extraordinarily powerful women and those on their way. Men on a regular basis would say to me, do you ever work with men? And I would say sometimes. And we'd start an interesting conversation. All right, let me come back to some of the questions. Thank you, Gabriella. Thanks for that comment. Yep, Alison, you got to stop telling yourself stories and looking for proof that they're true. That's great. Alison, what that reminds me of is it's like a little child who draws a picture of a monster on a piece of paper. They draw this fantastic, intricate monster. And they turn away for a second. They look back at the piece of paper and they scream, oh my God, a monster, a monster. We make up these beliefs and we think they're true. And the power of coaching is to separate you from those beliefs, to give you that space that you could, oh, it's just a thought. Oh, it's just a belief. Now I have some choice. Now I have facility with where I go next. Nice to see you here, Alison. Let's play with this actually. Really, the truth of it is I took about 20 of your questions that you asked in the Facebook group, and the answer to almost all of them is the same. They're all big vision questions, and I would have brought every single one of you back down to right now, who can you serve? So let me leave those questions that you asked already. And in this moment, what's one question you have right now? Ask it as succinctly as you can, and I'll see if I can answer one or two questions before we finish the call today. I'm just skimming through your messages, you guys. All right, let's see what I'm going to play with. There's not so much coaching right now, but let's play with a little bit of a Q&A. Jody says, I sent out videos, but not gotten a return. Well, keep doing it. Keep doing it. I mean, it's much easier to be an internet marketer than a coach who builds a business one conversation at a time. See, when Jody says she sent out videos, I'd be prepared to bet that it's not 100 or 1,000, that it's 2 or 5 or 10 or even 15 where she sent a video message to somebody. Keep doing it. Maybe the person you sent a message to was overwhelmed that day and thought, I'll get back to you, haven't had a chance. You can reach out to them again. You can connect them in another way. I'm not going to coach you right now, Jody. I'm going to just stay with this, but it's hard, right? It feels overwhelming because I've sent 10 video messages out and no one replied. And what does it mean about me? And it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. Keep doing it. Keep being of value. Keep serving people. Keep looking for someone who might need support and saying, hey, do you want some help with that? And I get it. It feels intense. It's why not many people are able to coach this way and build a business this way, but it really has an impact over time. Jen says, can you help me with the language around my offering? No, not in this moment, Jen, but I would forget about an offering. The clue's in the word offering. Stop worrying about an offering. Think about what do your clients need right now and use their language, not yours or mine. Where are we now? How do you go about narrowing your niche? Well, I don't talk about the word niche. Think about the word need. Who cares about a niche need? What do your people need? I'd focus on that. What question would be powerful enough? Virginia, what do you need? I'd ask your clients that. Maria, I saw you ask this question about character traits a couple of times. I'm not sure what you mean by that. It's a little bit complex to go into in this time. And Neha says, how do you create incredible value? You serve someone, you ask them what they need and you answer their questions and you coach them as powerfully as you can. And then you repeat and you do it again and again and again for days and weeks and months and years. And you ask them, did you get value from this? And if not, you say, well, let's speak again. Let's see if I can create even more value for you. And you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah, that's all I got on that one. Just keep serving. How do you help a college student whose parents put him into coaching? I don't know, Will, that's an interesting one. Because the clients, the parents, they're the ones who are paying. I'd ask them both. What would make this extraordinary? Ask the parents and ask the child and see if they match or if there's an overlap at any point. And if there's not, you may or may not be able to serve them. How to handle a not now, but after the COVID-19. Well, Graciela, here's what I tell you, because I hear this question, I've heard it for years. But it doesn't, now it sounds like not now, but after the virus is over. Not now, but ... In the past, it would be not now, but when I have some more money. Or not now, but when my business has shifted a little bit. Or not now, but when revenue increases. I play with the idea for myself that answer is bullshit. That answer means that I haven't served them powerfully enough. Otherwise, they'd say, I can't afford to work with you now, Rich. I will find a way and I'll be back. I've had people say that to me many times over the years, and I have said it to other coaches over the years. In fact, it's the story I started the Prosperous Coach with. I found this man called Steve Chandler, asked if I could work with him for free, and I'd pay him double at the end. And he really upset me because he said no. He said, I want the rich who can create the money now. And it took me 9 months to go away and create the money. So if someone's saying that I can't work with you now, but once this virus is over, then I'll work with you, I tell myself I didn't serve them powerfully enough. And I'd say, you know what, let's take coaching off the table. Forget it. It's not the right time for that. But there was something you shared today that I had an insight that we could dive deeper and I could really help you with that. Would you like to have another hour's conversation and get back into serving them really powerfully? Ernest, I saw you ask this question in the Facebook group. How do you recover from a session that wasn't a 10 out of 10 during or after? Why do you need to recover, man? Where's the recovery needed? Serve the best that you can. Ask yourself at the end, where was that on a scale of 1 to 10? And if it was a 7 or an 8 or a 5, just say, well, what's one tiny thing I'd do differently next time? And do that every single time. And after 10, 50, 100 sessions, you'll be better than 10, 50, or 100 earlier. Don't worry about giving yourself the high standard of it being a 10 out of 10. I'm not a 10 out of 10. I forgot my water and I had to leave you guys to get a glass of water today. Don't worry about being a 10 out of 10. Evelyn says, how do you keep resourceful, Rich, when you start feeling lonely and tired yourself? That's a great question, and I'll use that one to end. So let me just take some water in this moment. How do you keep resourceful when you start feeling lonely and tired yourself? Well, if you're in the Facebook group, you may have noticed the last Friday or Saturday, I put a little post. It was Friday evening. I closed down everything for the weekend. And then I realized I'm exhausted. And on Saturday, I felt exhausted. And I caught it. If Friday evening or Saturday had been days working with my clients, I wouldn't have felt exhausted because I have this ability to keep going when I'm of service. Anyone know that one? If I'm serving, I get a little bit energized at the same time. It's like the metaphor I've been using is that we have 2 tanks of oxygen on our back. 2. One of them, this tank of energy, let me say, not oxygen, this energy tank on this side, it goes down when I'm giving value and energy out to the world. But it also goes back up when I serve a client, when I create something, when I write an interesting article or make a video. It goes up and down. I'm drained, so I serve somebody, it goes up again. This tank goes up and down. But there's another one over on this side that I don't pay much attention to. And it goes down and down and down. And if I don't pay attention, I just think, oh, this one's going up and down. I feel okay. At some point, this one will hit rock bottom and I will crash and I will be burnt and I cannot do anything any longer. Some of you had that in your corporate careers. You know it. It's why you left corporate or a previous business to come into coaching. And some of you know it from now. You get burnt. Who knows this idea of these 2 tanks and you're not paying attention to the one on that side? So my answer to you, Evelyn, is you need someone in your life who can pay attention to that tank because you can't. You're not very good at paying attention to it. And whether that's a buddy coach, a husband, a wife, a partner, your kids, there are ways to have people who pay attention to that tank. You can talk to them. Hey, here's this thing I've got, and this is this tank that if it gets down here, I'll be burnt. But here are the clues. If you notice that I'm checking Facebook every day, if I'm carrying my phone around all the time and I'm not really present with the kids and I'm always checking my phone, those are some of the little clues that means that tank is losing energy. Would you point that out to me? And I give you permission to point that out to me because sometimes in the past, if you did that, I would have been upset with you. I'm not looking at my phone too much. I need to do it for my business. So we get defensive. Enroll your kids in that, enroll your partner in that, because they can help you see these little clues that you can't. Let me finish on that note. Take care of yourselves, guys. It is a challenging time for some of us. I'm homeschooling right now. So when I'm not doing this, I'm with the kids, and that's that's far more exhausting. And I used to be a high school teacher. My own kids who are only 6 and 8, being with them is draining. I don't have a moment to myself sometimes. And so take care of yourselves. Really find ways to nurture yourselves and bring your energy back. When you're someone who's always of service, you've got to find a way to serve yourself. And that actually has to come first. There's a beautiful note to end. Thank you for playing with us. Some of you I'm going to see tomorrow at our intensive. I'm looking forward to that. We've got 21 days we're playing together. If you're not yet on my email list, do sign up. I was up for 2 hours this morning writing an article. It's going to come out on Saturday. I think I'm creating some of my best stuff right now. And I'd love to share it with you. Thanks for the thumbs up, Jamie. Thank you, gang. Lots of love. Let's all unmute at the same time and share some love with one another. Bye, everyone.
Hey guys, thank you so much.
Everybody, awesome call. Everyone be
Lovely
well.
to see you.
Be well.
Thank you,
Take care.
Thank you, Rich.
Hey, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, gang. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Bye.